particularly, like, not particularly in Uganda alone, but even in other countries in sub-Saharan Africa and beyond, something I call academic inflation. So someone will ask me, what is that? We know inflation to be something tied to the economy, right? So by this time we have too many credentials chasing too few jobs.
Okay.
Right? So if you're a parent, you have spent every other penny you have ever saved to educate this child of yours, but they come back to sit home with you, right? Yet you expected them to dream big, become something, benefit society, become good taxpayers, become everything they have ever aspired to be, but they come back to live with you.
Because they haven't found a job.
That's right. They have no job. They were dislocated by the education system. So that's the kind of, you pushed them to fish, to climb a tree. Its natural abilities were not supposed to be those of someone who can climb a tree.
Right, so, Doctor, if you're talking about the fact, and I believe there are parents who are listening and watching right now and nodding their head and saying, yes, we have children, maybe they're at home, and they have too many credentials and very few jobs.
Yes.
What do we do with our education system that is creating this?
Yeah, so here's the thing. We need to take a deep breath. Instead of focusing, for example, on talking about examination malpractices here, which schools were undermarked, others were overmarked, right? We should think, do we have a problem with our education system? I usually ask this question, that there is a saying, a myth, that great performance in school leads to success in life. Is that true?
It's not true.
If not, thank you. If it is not true, then we should stop, like yesterday actually, we should stop telling ourselves that the system we have is working. Because it is not working. We know it. So can we find the alternative? So the alternative we are talking about, for example, that I talk about here, that is being applied elsewhere, and it seems to be working, and it seems to really touch the passions, the interest of those students, and to try to position them in the future and the now that they want to live. And it is authentic learning method of education.
Right.
Yes.
And also there's this other aspect, because in our years as we were growing up, our parents are also speaking to us, and the voices they gave us with regards to what we want to become in the future actually shaped us into, once you're asked, what do you want to become, little Mala? I want to become a doctor. Actually, I wanted to become a lawyer. I don't know where that dream went to.
Yeah.
But it's because that's how we were kind of, oriented to the workspace. You're told you either become a doctor, you either become a lawyer, you either become a teacher. Being a teacher those days was actually glorious.
Right.
And if you're not any of these top list careers, then you won't make it in life. So do we also change the conversations that parents have with their little ones, telling them that, you know what, you have to be a doctor or you have to be a lawyer? Because now the change in dynamics in the now world is actually very crucial for us to also put into perspective. Is that it?
You're right. Parents should, and every other education stakeholders, parents, teachers, ministers, the entire government, policy makers, we should start thinking, who is going to live a life for this child, right? Who is going to live? Is it me who is going to live that life? Could we have been wrong somewhere by actually pushing our kids, our students, to pursue a particular course? Because for us, we have seen, I have seen your sister successful in that area, but who knows that was their passion, and then took them out of what was supposed to be theirs, and eventually, when they are into what you force them to be in, they cannot become innovative, they cannot become creative, because if you took something you're passionate about, it means you will do whatever it takes to make something out of it. But if it is something you were pushed into, because my father wanted me to be that, then I'll always be there,
right?
Not knowing what to. So we need to have a conversation. We need to change the mindset and try to give some autonomy and reduce control over our students, our children, to also have a voice in what they have to learn.
Right. I could not actually agree more with you, because that is exactly what it is. But when this conversation has been had, and now the parents are willing to, you know, go with the passion of the child and enhance authentic learning,
right,
then we have the question of resources, which you also mentioned within the book. You
yes,
talk about the fact that resources are now a hindrance. Because if my child woke up and told me I want to swim, or I want to play the piano, finding a school that, yes, will help them with their cognitive skills, right, but also ensure that they get to have these piano classes,
right,
is going to cost me an arm and a leg right now.
Right.
Yes. So let's talk about resources in that regard.
Resources, very, very important. And nobody is saying that resources are not necessary to make this happen. But let me just conceptualize authentic learning for you first, right? It is authentic learning. What we are referring to here is real life learning that encourages a student to create something tangible that can solve a problem in society in the process of learning, something they can share with their world.
Be it music.
For example, if you're studying music, could you write a song? Could you give it to someone to, if you can't sing, someone to sing it, right? So in the process of learning, right? So now, bringing me back to resources, let me tell you, sometimes we need to look at how do we spend our resources that we already have. Now, think of a situation. We cannot deny today that technology is here to stay, right? Everyone has a phone. If you ask me, I have one. You have one, you have one.
Right.
Right? Government pays teachers, many teachers around the country, right? So now, if you went, for example, if you got the best teacher in the country to record a history course, like you record it, right?
Right.
And then you have facilities in school that are going to simply air that recording for students. And then you have these students that are going to, why do you have to teach something 100,000 times around the country with 100,000 people, right? Yet it could be taught by one person, and then you have these other people to sit down one-on-one, mentor, coach. The responsibility of a teacher changes to become a facilitator of learning, to become a coach, to become a mentor, to something different. Then they will ask questions they want, because the teacher has the time to interact with these students.
Right.
Right? So resources, yes, they are needed, but there are simple things that can be done. Start small. Yes, an overhaul is necessary, but start small, baby steps, and get to where you want to be.
Let me ask you a question. In terms of highlighting the ills that are there in the current education system, especially now with the focus here in Uganda, what are some of, over and above exam practices, what are some of those ills that maybe you have pointed out to in this particular book and also during your research that can be quick wins in terms of just finding solutions to?
Okay, the quick one here is we have to look at the education system that we have today, and we have to appreciate that it is actually outdated. It needs to be upgraded, right? If phones get to be upgraded every year, medication gets to be upgraded. Everything around us has been upgraded. If you go back, why can't we upgrade the education system? So the issues we are looking at right now is like you are showing some, you know, those multiple choices and test scores, right?
Right.
Why do we concentrate on, why do we measure test scores? The type of assessment we use, why do we still have to administer tests? Why can't we measure experience?
How do we do that? Because
so wait, we get experience within the job area of things, but we also need experience when it comes to education
in
system.
School. Create experience. For example, like I said, authentic learning. this is real life learning. Take learning out of this four-cornered room called a classroom. I call it actually the factory we call school, because yeah, it's a factory, but we call it school because what it does is that they process you in primary 1, they send you to primary 2 until you become the so-called ready product for primary 7, and then you are awarded a label called 4 or 5 or anything, and then they roll you over to senior 1 until you finish university, and then you are told that you're ready.
For life.
You have it for life, right? So now, how can we, should we start actually measuring experience? For example, if you have students like learning, break the walls, take them to the community, let them go do a project, for example, that is related to what they are learning. And if it is maybe to solve some problem within their neighborhoods around there, and then measure how much competencies have they achieved in the process? What experience have they achieved? So this now brings you as a teacher to allow them to make collaborations with different experts within the community to be the supervisors of these students, and you are the facilitator of the entire exercise. So at the end of the day, they have experience of interacting with the world out there, not in the classroom, right? So how do you expect someone who has been in a classroom for the last 3 years or 4, and then an employer is asking for experience?
Right.
Isn't it similar to asking somebody who is lacking blood to donate blood?
Right. But how then do we go about measuring this experience and just getting to know how much student X has actually learned based on the experience they were exposed to?
The tangible outcome they have done that is attached to the learning process.
Okay.
Right? For example, if you are learning music, you've seen auditions, for example.
Right.
What kind of music have you produced that you have shared, and how people have appreciated your music, right? For the audience there, you have shared it and they have appreciated that. So if people can do auditions and then they say, you know what, you're number 1, you're number 7 or something like that, then we can still measure these things. Right? Instead of having, I had honestly an embarrassing kind of a discussion that I saw on social media. People really feeling like if my child didn't get a 4, then they are doomed.
Right.
That's not
it's unfortunate,
true.
Right.
And then you hear the conversation that, don't worry, like if you failed, there is vocational training. They have made vocational technical education look bad. When did it start looking bad? It is supposed to be actually the lifesaver of this country.
Before we go to Rita, then what are you ideally saying? Because when we look at the subjects, for example, there's mathematics, and someone once made the joke and said, okay, where you are right now, maybe you're 25 years old. Have you ever put body mass into practice on a day-to-day life?
Exactly.
You know, the brackets of, is it division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction? I can remember. Experience. I can remember. So, are you trying to say that there's some subjects that are actually not helping our students that need to be done away with?
That one I would not go to that path of eliminating which subject or which, because remember, people have different passions, have different interests. I may not be interested in math. Math is very important.
Right, it is.
Right? But there's another person who dies to do math. So you can't just eliminate. But the question is, how do we deliver these subjects to students?
The delivery is the issue.
Yes. Okay. Do we ask students how they want to learn? We are 3 different people here. We take in information differently. We process it differently. Let me give you an example. For example, they give us a test, right? And for you, it will take you, say, 15 minutes. Then it is going to take you, say, 45 minutes. But me, maybe it will take me 1 hour. Why do you tag me someone who is dumb because it took me 1 hour? We are different.
Right.
Maybe there is something else actually. I'll do it in 5 minutes and you can't do it in 5 minutes, right? So we only need to understand personalized education, like personalized learning, to understand that we are different people, we understand things differently, we process them differently, and we can achieve things differently. Now, think of an exam. Think of exams, for example. If you did an exam in 3 hours, you're at university, maybe 7 questions. You managed to, in the time allocated, you managed to answer 5 questions. And by then they say stop, hand in. And then by the time you handed in and exited that door, you remembered every other answer for the 2 questions. And the system can't allow you to come back and complete your writing. Right. Is that fair?
Right.
Is it related to the real world?
No. That is something that we continue to ask, and sometimes, of course, someone will feel that they are unfair. But when you talk about personalized education,
yes,
as of now, we have a different version of personalized education, and we're going to be talking about the very first chapter of this book, which is You Can't Make Fish Climb Trees, which is the tale of malpractice. Now we're going to just listen and watch something that came in from the Executive Secretary of UNEB, Mr. Dan Odongo, who did mention, now this happened last year in 2018 when they caught teachers actually helping and aiding students, talking about personalized education, cheat. Let's watch this.
One's supposed to be mathematics, but of course even when you look at the font, the fake papers that have been sold will be a cause of disorientation of a lot of candidates, because I would imagine now many of the schools that have bought these materials are doing nothing else but revising these papers.
Now that's personalized education right there, one would say, because they were still trying to help them, and all for the price of 2 million Uganda shillings. But before we get into even that conversation, we're going to just see a solution that actually came in from an education expert. Now he's called Robert Mugambwa, and he had this to talk about in regards to what had, and this is a remedy to malpractice, and you let me know if you agree with it. Let's just watch this.
Exams come from UNEB. So the system at UNEB should be made serious when it comes to security. The security system should be improved. And the moral fabric of our head teachers and schools.
Well, Doctor, what would you have to say about that?
Okay, it is sad that society has degenerated to that level. Yes, the current education system is, it has a lot of ills, right? Including now the cheating we are seeing. But now, whatever we are talking about, whatever I have seen there is like, we are trying to address symptoms, right? Let's start thinking about the cause. What is causing this? What is causing this is that we have a system that is teaching students to memorize. Anyone who can memorize better, it doesn't matter whether you forget it in the next 1 hour. But as long as you can produce it in the next 5 minutes and get 100%, you are the best student the system has ever produced.
That's true.
Well, right? One who could remember it later, but just couldn't put it on the paper.
That's right. And the worst student categorized as go to the vocational, whatever, because you can't, or you have a pass at university, right? Now, but let's also think about the real world. Anything that is worth memorizing, it is also worth looking up. For example, look at what we do every day. When I'm confronted with something I don't know, I just grab my phone and look it out.
Right, on Google.
Google. There is no better teacher than Google today in terms of having information. So why can't we build an education system where actually we don't encourage memorization, so such that you don't instill fear in these students when it comes to an exam and they have not crammed how many history volumes or whichever subject you're dealing with. And you're measuring experience. You're measuring what they have done. Like, do something. Let them do something. Then they will produce what they have done. But if you encourage memorization, you are yet to see more actually cheating like that.
Let's talk about the teachers.
Yes.
In regards to the teachers and how they're trained.
Right.
Could it also go back to how they're trained? Because we could say perhaps they also encourage to memorize, and they also bring up memorization for the students. Right. So let's talk, and I believe you are a researcher.
Right.
You have taken it to the roots in regards to finding the problem. Is the teacher anywhere at fault? Is the teacher's training anywhere at fault? In
the teachers, I would not really blame teachers in any way, because they are operating in a set framework. There is a system they have to follow. There is a curriculum they have to follow. So they have told them that you have a mid-exam, for example, mid-term exam, and it has to be out of 60, for example. They have to administer that, and they have told them, like the curriculum tells them, that someone has to read this book, and once they are done, test them if they have actually crammed everything in there, right? So you can't ask them to do something different. That would be actually malpractice in terms of education managers. They will ask, what are you doing? This is not what you asked to do, right? So, but if you changed things at the top, at the framework they are working in, and facilitate them, they will definitely start to dance with the music that they are hearing.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So there's someone who is agreeing with you on social media, Mr. George Nimaya. You're saying that...
I'm glad, yeah.
Yes, he's saying that true that the education system has to be amended.
Right.
Now, there's someone else who is bringing a totally different aspect to this conversation, Mr. Sonko James. Thank you so much, guys, for your views. And he's saying that watch out for artificial intelligence. It's eating up professions world over. Take note of that. What's your view on artificial intelligence, though? We are already grappling with unemployment, and as much as the conversation has been how we can now amend the educational system, how we can, move from, pushing for good grades to now learning. As much as there's that, and that conversation is already taking shape, so to speak, on this other side, there's something, tech is coming to compete with humanity. What's your view on this, artificial intelligence?
This is a very, very good observation by someone who's watching there, right?
Right.
True. Like now, if you look at the education system that we have, that has actually led to millions of graduates stay home without work. Now, when AI comes in, artificial intelligence, this is actually true. Remember, all employers have to make money for their shareholders, like organizations that are profit-making. They have to make money for their shareholders.
Right.
Or those who own this business, they have to make money. So anything that will cut cost for them, but still deliver the quality of a certain product or service they are supposed to render.
Or much better.
Or even much better.
Right.
Which is true, actually, because you see that as employees, some of them, I saw some reports that some employees can sit on a desk and only work for 4 hours out of 12. AI is not going to do that. A robot is not going to do that. It will do 24 hours, and it only needs some servicing of just once a year, right?
Right.
So they will take that. Now, but if you tweaked this education system, or transformed it to become, because we are in this creative economy. So, for example, is there a robot that is going to sing a song for you? Oh, right?
Now there is.
There is.
No. But someone is going to compose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Right?
yes. It has to be put in its system, so to speak.
Thank you. It's
Right.
going to be, that's just a mouthpiece, right?
Right.
But can we create situations where we are going to have creative people that were super intelligent, because these machines are created after our intelligence, but they are made perfect, right? There are some soft skills. Now, I saw some, I travel around very often. I came across two restaurants, one bar and one restaurant. It has totally deployed robots who come with the menu for you, and then they say, sir, what do you want to eat, right? And then you say, please, can I order number 3, this and this? And then it goes, and then it comes back with a tray with your food, and they have disregarded 26 staff. Right? That will come eventually. But how can we become so creative in the creative economy to come up with other So we create other opportunities that are not going to be invaded by AI, because we can't run away from technology, definitely.
But AI will need us, is what you're saying.
It will need us.
Artificial intelligence is definitely going to need us.
If you train us in a way, not in, you know, right now we have an education system that is based on industrial age values, right?
What is industrial age?
Industrial age values, that's when industrial revolution happened, 1900, where factory owners needed workers. So in order to get workers who could actually comply with instructions, who could sit still and perform for the next 12 hours, get paid less, and do the work. So they decided to invent this kind of school system where you have students have to comply to instructions. That's actually training them to comply for the factory. And then they have to take in every other instruction and sit still, listen to bells, breaks, and the way they do it at work, like, oh, you have a break and something like that.
Right.
So we have to go away from those kind of, that kind of education system and come up with an education system that actually nurtures the inner person, who you were supposed to be, such that all your potentials are extracted, and that's when you can become very imaginative, creative, innovative, and then AI will lead you.
And when we talk about nurturing and making sure that you get out the creativeness and the imagination that this child might have, let's look at if we have done all those things right. And we turn them into the job
labor market.
Yes. What happens there? Because also the labor market is not one of the easiest places one should go. It's a slit throat kind of thing. Everyone has mentioned it. They're always saying it. And how does a child now handle with that?
True. So looking at the current system, education system, the labor market economy, like how it is today. Recently, I happened to attend a graduation ceremony, one of those ones in Makerere. Like two nieces of mine were graduating.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But I was
you're worried about that.
deeply worried.
Hesitation.
Deeply worried. So
why were you worried?
I listened to their speeches during their graduation part, and I said, oh, what is going on? But I was worried because I don't know where they're going to find work, right? If even the courses they did, they have any experience out of them. So I looked at the statistics given by the Vice Chancellor. I think around 12,000 students overall graduated, right? And I think of that entire cohort coming out of the university. But that's one university. How many universities do we have in the country?
And how many graduated
How
last
many
week?
graduated last week? So if you put them together, ask yourself, has the economy created the same number of jobs?
Well, we had the president who did attend letting us know that actually, if you fail to find a job, you can become a comedian, you can become a musician. But they haven't trained you to become that.
That's it. So the education system only focused on academic, excluded your passion and interest. Yet those two could have been combined. Now, coming back to what you talked about. So if we do all these things right, that is why we actually need to start an education system that educates a child. So we have to separate two things, school and education. They are two different things. People confuse the two. Actually, school is killing education for people. So now, if we are educated in giving students authentic learning, right, that makes them become who they are. So that means some of them, because they are actually within the zone, they are into something they were meant to be. They will not want to work. They will create work, and their colleagues will follow them, work for them. They become creative. They will build new things you have never seen.
I agree with you, and the other ills that, of course, I need just you to respond to in terms of solutions in the next 1 minute. We've tackled exam malpractices. We've also tackled the issue to do with the system of education that needs to be revised. Now, there's another issue of teacher absenteeism. There's also the other issue of sex for grades. This is also to do with the teachers and the students, and there's also something to do with the entire policy on education. What is your view on these three aspects? Okay,
let's start with absenteeism. Then this is another symptom of the bigger problem. For example, how did that teacher end up becoming a teacher anyway? Did they want to become a teacher? Probably not, because whatever they wanted to do was never given them, they were never received that, and they ended up becoming a teacher. So when they're at school, they just put in whatever they can just because they have to earn something to make a living.
So what you're saying is that by the time, before someone comes up for a job or for training for being a teacher,
right,
we need to look into their purpose and into their passion.
Yeah. While training students from primary to whichever, if we follow someone's passion, they will end up where they want to be.
Okay.
Not the system compelling them to be what they are not supposed to be.
All right.
So
that's for grades.
That is immoral. So that one, like you're always going to have bad apples, right? And actually making amazing teachers look bad.
Right.
Right? So those ones are going to be there, but of course that's when the law comes in.
Okay.
Yes.
So the law needs to be looked at.
Yes.
Let's look at the education policy as we come to a close.
Of course. When we talk about upgrading education system, that's where we have to start.
Right.
Right? Someone will tell me that, but we have this neatly written, but it is shelved somewhere, implementation is what is wrong.
Okay.
Right? True. It could be true. Right? But what you see, I have talked to different professors, like through my research, like in different institutions here in the country. But you look at their course outlines, you look at the curriculum that they are following, they can't change it because that's what they are given for a particular period of time.
Right.
Right? So if curriculum is policy, if it has to be amended to allow people to gain experience, not memorizing facts.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in studios.
Not a problem.
Rita, you can close this for us.
Well, clearly, if you're a parent and you have been watching this, there's a lot that this book does talk about. You can't make fish climb trees. That is from Dr. Lawrence Muganga. And honestly, I feel that each parent needs this, because education needs to be personalized after our conversation this morning. And maybe for those that are selecting a school for their children, perhaps you should try looking at their passions now. Who knows, you could help them now more than ever. It is Morning at NTV, and you can continue with the conversation using the hashtag Morning at NTV on our Facebook and Twitter, NTV Uganda.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Pleasure.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Feeling my whole world is changing. Woke up, I was feeling down, but now I'm not complaining. Thanks to my 3 lucky numbers, you too can win if you enter Super 3.